All right. Um, yeah, so I guess I'll do like a quick introduction, then we can talk all about you. I'm
Yeah.
My name's Corey. I'm an intern this year at the Hyde Park Jazz Festival. I'm a student at the University of Chicago. Um, yeah, I love music. I do some composing myself, play piano, play sax, and yeah, I love hearing from artists like you and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, first of all, could you just introduce yourself and tell us about the kind of music that you write, play, and maybe also listen to?
Yeah, of course. Well, first, my name is Leonard Simpson. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but now I live here in Chicago uh, for a while now. I mean, technically 2 years, but technically it's been like 8. It's weird. We don't have to go down that. It's a long story. Um, yeah, so a lot of the music I write. So I come out of church. Church of God in Christ, both of my parents. My dad's a pastor, my mom's a minister. I grew up listening to church music,
Hmm.
and but I also love Bird. You know what I mean? Like I love all this different music. So I a lot of my music has a fusion of gospel
Hmm.
and jazz. Um, I like to call it praise and worship music through the lens of jazz. I don't know if you call it jazz music. Um, to me, I don't really call it, depending on how you define it. But so that's the music where I'm usually writing. I think the listener, especially if they have a somewhat grasp of the music that comes out of the African American tradition, you can hear that influence. And so that's kind of the music that I write. And 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 so it gives a lot of different. A lot of it is based on either scriptures or just kind of how I'm feeling at that moment, kind of going through that, which is why I also consider it praise and worship is kind of how I handle or deal with things, really. Um, and the nice part is my band also are also believers. So, when I write a certain thing, I know exactly how. Well, I don't know how they're. I mean, I know somewhat how they're going to interpret it, but I know that they have their own personal relationship to it. So that comes through the music, right?
Yeah.
And I think so. I try that's the music I like to write and allows each person to express themselves as well through their own personal lens. Um, and as far as the music I listen to, I love listening to all types of music. I mean, like I said, I listen to gospel music. I listen to jazz music. I love listening to classical. You know, I love listening to my peers, my friends. Um, So like, one moment I may listen to Bird, and then like 2 seconds later, I'm listening to the William Brothers gospel trio.
Yeah.
Then the next song I'm listening to a Rimsky-Korsakov piece.
Yeah.
Like all of that to me, I just love good music, no matter what genre it is.
No, absolutely. And I think it's really awesome and really interesting, like approaching music with that gospel, that religious lens. I think something that you were saying, especially with how you interact with your other band members, that it forms a connection between yourself and the music. You're able to, I mean, you have that connection. You also, to an extent, understand others' connection with the music. It's like
Right.
this whole kind of network, and I think that's really interesting what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just noticed I think it's powerful I think it brings everybody on one accord, and it brings a central focus to everything, you know.
No, that's really valuable. Um,
Absolutely.
I guess, I mean, this is very related, but I'm kind of curious what some of your more impactful influences and maybe also mentors in your music career, like who've those people been?
Yeah. Um, I think each person has like served the purpose in each
Mm,
season, right? So like I can go from high school influences being seniors, and when I was a freshman, so like some of those people were Brandon Clayton and Dylan O'Bannon, like hearing like, okay, the saxophone can sound that way,
mm,
and then going to my band director, it's like, I want a good sound. How do I get a good sound? And a band teacher teaches me by vibrato. And then one who like one person who was like kind of took me under his wing young was Ron Carter, not the bass player,
yeah.
the saxophone player. That'd be great. But I'll never forget hearing me playing, and he was like, "Well, it was him and one other person, Reggie Thomas. They both came to my school when I was in high school, and he was like, I want you to transcribe Cannonball." And so what I started doing was started listening so much to the music. So I started listening to like I grew up like listening to big band, Duke Ellington,
Mm,
Count Basie. But then I started listening to Cannonball and Bird. And then my sister actually plays a huge role in when I started getting into jazz music. Her basketball team when she was in college went on a tour, and she was like, "Well, I know that you're starting to get or a tournament. We're gonna go play at a tournament." And she was like, "Well, I know you're starting to get into jazz music," so I went to go buy the CD
oh, wow.
at the bookstore. She has no idea what she's picking up, right? I mean, she's just like, "I seen something with a saxophone player, so I got it." Well, that record just happened to be Birds with Strings.
Sure. Yeah.
So, listening to that record young, like, holy crap, man, like, okay, I want to do this.
Mm,
And then having teachers, there's a conservatory in Wisconsin called Wisconsin Conservatory of Music. So, through the lineage, I mean, not lineage, the tutelage of Mark Davis, Eric Jacobson, um, Jamie Breivik, Jeff Hammond, Dave Bayless. Those were some of my teachers in high school, and Brian Lynch was one of my mentors. And then I started taking lessons with. I was at this point I've been learning music by ear.
yeah.
I didn't know theory or harmony.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the records, transcribing whatever it was, and just playing it. And I had a teacher. His name was Eric Short, and I'll never forget. We had a lesson, and I remember him telling me his job was not necessarily. I mean, he was teaching me new things, obviously,
Mm,
but his thing was he taught me what I was hearing,
yeah.
and that opened up my ear because now the intellectual side was now lining up with what my ears are doing. So
Yeah.
I had the control I had because I knew it wasn't just like, oh, I'm hearing this, which is a great thing. Also, but like, oh, I know this goes here, and I know I can do this to this. I know how to do that, right? And I can also teach it to someone, right? So after that, went to Northern Illinois, and I studied with Jeff Bradfield. And Jeff Bradfield was helped me. He really helped me refine a lot of the things and help push me past um, push my what I already kind of came in with, as far as playing the saxophone, help me think deeper about music, not just the notes, but help me think about the rhythm aspect of the music. Help me think about a lot of other things. I mean, he used to drill me on my time
Yeah.
and pitch, just like the finer things, the refining point. Um, and I never, and then he gave me different people to listen to it, and so it opened my ears up. I started to hear different things, um, and so so I went from being like I was always listening to Bird, and always listening to George Coleman, always listening to them. And then Jeff was like, "Well, man, let's try some other people. What about Will Vincent? What about Ornette?"
Yeah.
And like that just opened my ears up, and then the rest was just like the curious. I mean, obviously, I've had people along the way. Again, Reggie Thomas pushing me, you know, um, other teachers, my peers showing me some stuff, and I think after that point, it was being curious and being in the Chicago has such a wealth of amazing musicians,
Yeah.
and each person, just watching and listening to each person, I learned so much.
Hmm.
It's like I took lessons from everybody without them actually, never paying them,
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great way of thinking about that. I love that.
it's just like I was like, oh man, I love the way how they play melody. Like I used to selfishly go listen to Greg Ward play every Tuesday, and
Mhm.
I would just watch him play for an hour. He did the jam session, and I would just intently listen. I'm like, okay, that's how he's kind of playing melodies. Okay, that's how he's kind of navigating that. Okay, and then I'll go home and try it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so I think that was such a huge thing for me. And then when I went to school, when I went to get my master's degree, I studied with a few different people. But one who really kind of like changed the way I kind of thought about even emotion in music was James Newton. And just like and in composition too, he just taught me different ways of like thinking about things in an emotional standpoint. Thinking, I think, always just kind of refining, right?
Yeah.
And so that, to me, I think those are a lot of things that kind of help shaped, as far as people who have, I think, always, I'm very grateful that there's always been people around me. I feel like God has always sent people around me at each point of being stuck, people who kind of like inspire me in different ways to kind of keep that fire going. Um,
Yeah,
so that's kind of how I think what the inspiration for me.
absolutely. It seems you're tracking like a trajectory of like you're growing and also these mentors are following that growth that you're going through.
Yeah.
Um, something that you said that was really, really interesting to me was first that, well, you started off um, self-taught for the most part.
Mhm.
And yeah, and you had that musicality that you then were able to build on. Like, had that musicality, then introduce to some music theory, which then you could tie those two together and then
Mhm.
go teach, go learn more, and those stepping stones just continued. I was wondering if we could take a step back for a second and you could talk about that like process of teaching yourself that kind of musicality. How
Yeah.
did that like maybe challenge you and shape you? That I feel like that's such a kind of unique um and interesting experience.
Yeah. Why when I was younger, I mean, we couldn't necessarily afford lessons.
Yeah.
But I was determined to figure
Mm.
it out. And I used to be like, Lord, I don't know how in the world I'm gonna learn this, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna, like, with your help, I'm gonna figure this thing out.
Mm.
So I used to, and my mom can attest to this. I used to go in my room and just get all get all these CDs and just like listen.
Yeah.
And like I remember Professor Carter used to always say, he was like, listen and sing. So I used to sing along to these records. I mean, to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, every night. I
Yeah.
mean, literally every night.
Yeah.
I will listen to records. My mom can attest. I will like go at school. I'll stay after school, practice. What I
Mm.
was trying to do is like transcribe a bunch of bird tunes and bird solos, and then I'll go home, go in my room, listen to records all night. Probably wasn't doing any homework. And then it was a little hard because I felt that certain people were progressing more than me because I didn't have someone kind of teaching me each thing,
Yeah.
step by step process. What I kind of did though was I would just annoy everybody. I would just ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So I never forget. I had a friend who he was like, man, you should try doing this on the blues. And it's like you should try to like outline the 3/6. And I was like, man, I don't know what that is. And so I'll never forget going to my one of my combo instructors at the time, and I was like, Eric, man, what is a 3/6? I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, Leonard, he's like, you remember that bebop scale I taught you? I'll teach you what a 3/6 is if you learn that bebop scale on all 12 keys. And then I'll never forget like then I remember there's so many people is like, and I remember we played. So I asked questions. Like I remember going to a guitar player. Like we were playing this song called Peggy's Blue Skylight, and it had a bunch of minor 2/5 and I had no idea what it was. And so I go to him. I was like, Neil, I don't know what this is. And he was like, man, you can try this. Try this scale. And I was like, oh, that's what that. So it was hard, but I made it a point to like go hang out, go ask the questions, go listen to get that information. I didn't necessarily wait for the information to come to me.
Yeah.
I would text, email, call, whatever it was, like just to see like what is it, so I can figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I dealt with it.
Yeah. No, that determination to like learn, that's really inspiring and really awesome. It's cool that you had so many different like people that you could reach out to and ask these questions to, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And also something that we were talking about a bit earlier, you mentioned that you were a performer, composer, and also educator. All these different things. I was wondering if you could talk a bit about these different sides to your art, maybe how they relate or how they're different, or just whatever you want to talk about those.
Yeah. So composing taught me what I liked in music. When I was younger, like I would do these things. It's like, so why do I keep doing this? Oh, because I really like that. So I feel like composing in a way kind of focused me in a little bit and helped me have a sense of identity, in the sense of like, okay, this is what I like in music. I like when music does this. I like when that moves me when music does that. And the nice part about composing is I can edit. You know what I mean? Like I can go back and like, okay, what is this? How can I figure out? It's like problem solving that I really love. So I think for me, that's even going to the education part. I have students that I try to encourage to compose because first of all, like composing, I think it opens up their ears in a certain way. And if they struggle to get out of their head, if they're so in their head, it actually I think it kind of helps get out of your head. Like, okay, let's try writing the contrafact to see if we can put this language in certain, chord changes, so that's and then like composing, I always love to tell a story. And I try to do that for someone I'm in my head a lot, like I don't always tell people who know me know I'm a very private person, or can be. And one of the ways I kind of deal with that is through composition. I write to tell but that also kind of goes into the way how I play. I love to tell stories when I'm playing. I don't know if somebody made this quote, but like improvising is almost like spontaneous composition. And so that's one of the things I felt like when I first started playing, going to the performer side. When I first started playing, that was like my way of escape. I can play, I can say all I want to say, and you have no idea what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Unless I don't know what it is, you can interpret every note, what I mean? But if you do, then wow. But playing wise, I just like, it was my way of escape and a way of kind of dealing with all the things that I've dealt with. So when I'm teaching, obviously like, because I didn't come from the theory side first,
Sure.
so I don't necessarily like to teach that way. I mean, now if that happens, then sure. I mean, like if like depending on where the student is, right? But I love to, because what actually helped me is like if I can inspire you, then you feel more willing, you feel compelled to go do some of the other work, like, so I love students how, like, as an educator, how to inspire them, like, oh, try this, or let's see if we can, especially the emotional side of the music, like, let's see if we try this, or let's see what feeling we get when we do this, you know. So I feel as an educator, I'm always trying to inspire them, because I think, like, you can give a bunch of people a bunch of information, but if they're not inspired, it's not going to do anything,
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I make you inspired and then give you the information, then you just take it and run with it.
Hmm.
And I think that's what my teachers have did to me. They never, I was already inspired. So all they had to do was just give me the information, and I'm
Yeah.
on my way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things I really want to do with students, is to just inspire them. Obviously give them the information that they need to know, but I want to also inspire them, um and to think about music differently.
Hmm.
I think that's another thing that sometimes we make everything so cerebral in a way, which is great. I mean, great. I mean, I feel like we're nerds, good nerds, but also to just, like, think about, like, um, the feeling, how to think deeper about music. I think that that's one thing James Newton did for me, was he helped me take things that are, like, intellectual, like, Leonard, well, this creates emotion, this creates sadness, this tugs on the heart, this creates excitement. And when you do that, when you go listen to other music, you like, oh, that's what he was talking about. That feeling that I got was directly tied to that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of how I feel like the way I play informs the way I compose, and informs the way I teach.
Yeah.
I should have went that way. I maybe did a weird loop, but
No, I think that's great.
but I do think the way I play, or I should say, I try to the way I play to inform the way I compose and the way I teach.
Yeah, that whole point of finding that inspiration is so awesome, and I think, like, is overlooked too often. Because, yeah, no, you're totally right. Music is, I mean, obviously, a lot of the time it's some serious work and some serious grind.
Right.
And if students are missing that reason, like, if they can't remember why they're doing this thing, why they love this thing, then that determination that you were talking about earlier, that drove you to learn all these things yourself, missing out on that determination can be really detrimental.
Right. I mean, I think, it has to begin in the mind first,
Mm,
right? Like, if it's not in the mind and you're doing something because someone else tells you to do it,
exactly.
you
Then
quit
it's just
easily.
homework.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just homework, and you quit easily.
Mm,
You know, Imagine doing something that you don't really like doing, but someone's telling you to do, and it doesn't work out. You'd be like, all right, I'm done.
yep.
You know,
Yep.
but if you made it up in your mind and it's coming from your own heart, then you push past those days that are hard,
Yep.
you know. And I think that's the difference. I think that's what if we can do that, I think we'll be in a good place.
Yeah. We need more teachers like you.
Oh, well.
That's so awesome. Um, yeah. All right. A little bit of a segue.
Okay.
However, you grew up in Milwaukee
Mhm.
before moving to Chicago,
Yeah.
but so you've always been close to Chicago.
Mhm.
So I guess I was kind of wondering what draws you to the city, and maybe what's special about the jazz scene here.
Community.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, obviously, Chicago has some of the best musicians.
Hmm.
I think hands down, Chicago has some of the best musicians. And to me, maybe, but I think we often get overlooked. But, but I think Chicago, the thing that drove me here was I get to hear some of the best musicians in the world, and also some of the most loving people.
Mm. Yeah.
And you get to be a part of a community of people who want to grow, but also want to live life too. You know, like there's a serious aspect to it, but then there's also like loving aspect to it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that drew me. Obviously, my family lives close, but but as far as like the community, I when I first moved here, first went to a jam session. The people who we put, the people who were playing, and the people I was looking up to musically at the time. I mean, not at the time, but in general. But the people I was looking up to were also hanging jam sessions.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, so when you're young and you're like, you know, you play, and then, you know, you're sitting there, it's like, oh man, like, oh, Clark Summers, who just did this thing, is also hanging at this jam session.
Yeah.
Or Matt Euler, who's did, you know, or, you know, and so that's one of the things I enjoyed. I mean, I knew a lot of people kind of because of being so close, and, you know, a lot of the scenes kind of mixed together.
Mm.
You know, I knew people, like I knew Katie Ernst, and, you know, but like when I moved there, it's almost like everybody welcomed me with open arms.
Mm.
And um, and that was great. I think that was a beautiful part, and it actually helped facilitate growth because of like I didn't need to compete with anybody.
Mm.
You know, it was almost like you do your thing, you do it well, and we're gonna help you push
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it, and everybody's gonna help push each other. Um, and so yeah, and then a lot of my friends like moved here, you know, and I met so many different people who moved here that it's just perfect. It's like the perfect thing, you know.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Chicago's community, you know, when they watch this, I hope Chicago's community is one of the best music communities I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. No, I absolutely feel that as well. It's a community, and not only that, it's a community of people that genuinely want to support each other and want to see each other succeed.
Absolutely.
And they're willing to mentor for that. They're willing to help out. And I think, yeah, I'm totally with you. I think that's really what makes it special.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of community and all the things we love about this Chicago community, as you know, Hyde Park Jazz Festival is coming up very soon now, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. We'd love to hear more about the Lenard Simpson Quartet. Like, how did that group form? Maybe also, what are you looking forward to about the Hyde Park Jazz Festival?
Yeah. So I knew each member individually. Well, I'll start kind of how I met each person. So when I first moved to Chicago in 2017, I started playing at this jam session with Charles Heath.
Yeah.
And Julius Tucker was the piano player. And so we started playing every Sunday together. And then we started playing a lot of different gigs together. And I think we also played on a thing together and earlier before I officially moved. So that's where we met. And then Rainier Brooks, he came. Me and Rainier met, I think, at a Young Generation concert through the Jazz Institute. I think when I first moved here too, and we played in a group together, and that was the first. That's the first time we played. And then we became close. And then Sam Jewell, we met. I don't remember what year it was when I was still in undergrad. He came to play somebody's recital.
Okay, cool. And
so I met Sam then. And then when I moved to Chicago, it was actually my senior year. His guitar player got sick, and he called me. And then from that moment on, we've been playing. And we've actually become all of them, not each one, but all of them, we've become very close, like best friends. So when I was in school in LA, and I was like, well, I think I'm gonna move back to Chicago, but I want to do it different this time. I want to play with people, but I want something of my own, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And at this time, I'm very close to, Sam, Rainier, Julius. I'm very close to talking to Sam all the time. Me and Sam would talk on the phone for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so when I knew wanted to move back, I was like, okay, here's the band. Because I had each of their sounds in my ear.
Mm.
I had Sam, Rainier, and Julius, and I was like, that's gonna be the band.
Yeah.
And this till this day, that's this specific quartet has not changed.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's like a glue. It's like literally the moment I moved back and we played, I was like, that's it.
That's the one. That's the one.
So and it was special. It was special the first time. I was like, that's the band.
Mm.
And so that's how it came to be. And they're some of my favorite musicians. They're some of my favorite musicians, but also my favorite people. So we always hang out, and even like we'll hang out, we'll play basketball, we'll hang out and not even play music. You know what I mean? Like we're actual friends, you know what I mean? So that's how the kind of group came to be. What was your other question?
Yeah, just I mean, what you're looking forward to about the Hyde Park Jazz Fest?
Yeah, well, man, I mean, it's one of my favorite festivals. I love the other festivals too. I don't throw shade on any other festivals.
Of course, never.
But I mean, first of all, I thank Kate Dumbleton for giving me a shot. I remember the first time she was like, "Yeah, I want you." And I was like, "Me? Really? Why me?" But I love. It's just the community. I hate to keep saying, but the community aspect of it. When you go to that festival, you see a lot of local artists. You see a lot of local people putting on this beautiful music who gets showcased. Along with some people who don't live here, but you see. It's like a festival where you can just see so much great music, and it's literally just like a hang, so similar to all the festivals for all the musicians on the scene. And I think Kate does a great job. Kate and her team does a great job of programming the music and bringing amazing artists, but just creating a vibe. You know what I mean? Like just creating a nice vibe. Where you're like, man, I'm trying to go hang. And Hyde Park is one of the most beautiful areas in Chicago, So I'm excited for the hang, and I'm also excited this year for presenting my music. I'm excited because it's like, first year playing in a bank, and then and now I'm playing on the stage. It's nervous. I wouldn't say it's not nervous, but it's presenting my music. I'm excited because Kate trusts me, and it means a lot when somebody trusts you to put on a set of music and represent it at the stage.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited just for the whole weekend. It's just going to be a hang, and here's some of my favorite musicians on the planet, like seriously, I truly mean that. A lot of the people that live here are literally some of my favorite musicians on the planet. So if they're watching, I love them all.
Awesome. No, I mean, and obviously everyone is so excited to hear you as well. It's hard not to sound like a broken record, but I mean, the community, amazing. Everyone's looking forward to this. And yeah. I guess, yeah, I almost forgot, but I do want to ask if there's any upcoming projects, any kind of performances, anything we should be looking out for on your end.
Not yet. I mean, besides the performance, at the festival, at the Wagner stage at 1:30, Um,
Be there.
be there. No pressure. As my friend Paul Cornish loves to say, he says no pressure. So I'm still natural me, Paul. Um, no, right now I think I'm trying to stay in the process of booking some stuff. So stay tuned. You can go to if you do want to find out, you can go to my website. Well, my website is Lenard Simpson Music at gmail. Sorry, not email. LeonardSimpsonMusic.com. um, and that's no O. If you put a O, you will not find me. It is Lenard Simpson, like the TV show. And I will keep you updated. I will be better about posting, or you can follow me on my social media. Um, I think if you just put Leonard Simpson the third, you'll find me at some point. Especially, I'm the only person probably in the world who has no O in his name. So
It's your trademark.
yeah, it's my trademark, right? So yeah, I think just stay tuned, and there will be stuff. I promise, there will be stuff. I just gotta start emailing.
Amazing. We're so excited. We're so excited for it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right.